Anyone have a bill? Senator Tyson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to see what it was like on the other side. So I have two RS requests. 2792, one of them is property tax exemption for certain personal property. I've been working with the county appraisers on this, the association. And the second one is RS 2984. I've been working with the clerks. It's so that county clerks do not have to send a revenue neutral letter if no property taxes are owed on that property.
Without objection, anyone have any objections? Seeing none, we'll accept those.
Thank you.
Thank you. Committee, I'd like to introduce some JCAG students from Goodland. If you would please stand up. Their teacher is Rebecca Brace, and thank you for being here today. Next, we will have budget reports. We'll start out with the Executive Subcommittee, Senator Alley, Office of the Attorney General.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Office of Attorney General for 2024, the agency submits a revised budget of $82 million, including $11 million SGF on budget expenditures for 24. This is an all-fund increase of $43 million, or 111%, including the SGF increase of 1.4%, or $1.4 million. The agency estimates include $2 million and 5 FTEs for the following requests. Request includes $600,000 SGF for 25% state match for the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit. The revised estimate includes $1 million SGF for sole purpose of natural gas litigation. The revised estimate includes $57,000 SGF for one position FTE for the accounting specialist for 2024. And this is due to reorganization in the administrative division. And the estimate includes $165,900 for SGF for two positions for investigator of the Affirmative Civil Enforcement Unit. Also included is a revised estimate for $102,000, all from the Crimes Victim Compensation Fund, and one FTE for the Associate Division Chief, 24, $83,066 from federal funds for one FTE for the epidemiologist for the Child Death Review Board, the $200,000 for the SGF to recover funds due to shortage in the court cost funds, and $37,000 SGF to account for a shortfall in appropriations for legislative pay. Absent of the above supplemental request, the agency estimate includes $41 million in base budget expenditures, and the significant adjustments are as follows. An increase of $7.8 million to locals, aid to locals for 24, and $34.6 million, including $17,000 SGF for assistance for other assistance in 2024. Increase is primarily attributable to the increased expenditures for the Tort Claims Fund and the Kansas Fights Addiction Fund. The agency estimates also includes 200 FTE in 2024. This is an increase of 13.4 FTE above the 24 as approved numbers. The increase is attributable to the agency's supplemental request and reorganization. The governor recommends expenditures of 81.7, including 10.7 SGF and 198.2 FTE positions for 2024. This is an all fronts decrease of 208,000 or 3% FGF decrease of 349.4 and a decrease of 2 FTE positions. Governor does not recommend adoption of the following two supplemental requests. Governor does not recommend adoption of the agency's supplemental request for $165,900 SGF and two positions for the investigator of Affirmative Civil Enforcement Unit and a special agent in charge of licensing and inspection unit for $98,000. Governor does not recommend $200,000 SGF and supplemental funding to recover funds due to a shortage in court cost fund in 2024. The subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendations for 2024. Moving on to 25. 25, the agency requests 46.7 million, including 10.9 SGF for 25. This is an all funds decrease of 35.2 million or 43%, and an SGF decrease of $183,000 below the 24 revised estimate. Request includes 1.3 million and 5 FTE positions for the following enhancement request. The request includes 600,000 SGF to provide a 25% state match for the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit. The request includes $59,600 for the SGF and 1 FTE positions for the accounting specialist for 25. And the request includes 173,485 SGF and 2 FTE positions for investigator of affirmative civil enforcement unit. The request also includes 103,000 from the Crimes Victim Compensation Fund and 1 FTE position for the Associate Division Chief for 25. Request adds 87,900, all from federal funds, and 1 FTE position for the Child Death Review Board for 2025. This request, and the request adds 900,000 SGF to recover funds due to a shortage in court cost funds for 2025. The request adds 300,000 SGF for victims and victim information notification everyday VINE system for 2025. Absent enhanced request, the request includes a decrease of 34 million in base budget expenditures, and the significant adjustments are the agency request 4.4 million to aid locals expenditures for 25. This is a decrease of 5.7 million. The decrease is due to lower revenue estimates from the opioid settlements. The agency request includes 19 million in other assistance expenditures for 25. This is a decrease of 28 million or 59% below the 24 estimate. This includes a decrease of 17 million from the Kansas Fights Addiction Fund due to lower revenue and from the opioid settlement, and 11.3 million from the torts claim fund due to a transfer increase in 2024 that will not occur in 25. The agency requests that also that 200 FTE on and off budget positions for 25, the same number as 24. The governor's recommendation recommends expenditures of 46.6 million, including 9.9 FGF and 198.2 FTE positions for 25. That all funds decrease of 173,000 SGF decrease of $1 million and 2 FTE positions below the agency's request. The governor does not recommend adoption of the following 2 enhancements. Governor does not recommend adoption of the agency's enhancement request of 173,000 and 2 FTE positions for the investigator of affirmative civil enforcement unit and a special agent in charge of licensing and inspection unit. Governor does not recommend 900,000 SGF in enhancement funding to recover funds due to a shortage of the court cost funds in 2025. Subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation with the following adjustments. Add $173,485, including 1 million SGF and two FTE positions to fund the agency's enhancement request for the investigator of affirmative civil enforcement unit, special agent in charge, and licensing and inspection unit, and the funds to recover funds due to the shortage in court cost funds for 2025. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you, Senator Alley. Any questions? Senator Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a couple of questions. I just need, and I didn't serve on the subcommittee, so on number 8 and number 9, those monies that are going to local units of government are from the settlement that we had concerning the opioid funds. Is this correct?
Senator Alley.
On number 8 and number 9 in 24?
It doesn't matter, 24 or 25. I mean, 24, my question would go back to number 9, the aids to local, but then in think in 25 it's 8 and 9, so, but is that from the opioid settlement?
Settlements is what the problem.
And then the subcommittee recommended the adjustment, was that, I see that it's a 1 million SGF, whereas the governor did not recommend 900,000 SGF. So where did the 1 million?
Remember, the $900,000 SGF, it was enhancement funding to recover funds that were shorted during the court cost fund in 2025. So it come from a shortage to 900,000, so we're replacing with SGF.
I understand that, but you're replacing it with 1 million instead of 900,000. That's what my question is.
I think that if you also come in, then the agency's enhancement of 173,000 for the affirmative civil enforcement unit is also included in there.
Oh, so that 173,000 was included with the.
There's a little bit of fuzzy math in there we have to follow.
Okay. And then finally, on the two positions, is the, a special agent in charge in the licensing and inspection unit. Is this, are these new? Is that a new, are those are new positions? Have we had a licensing and inspection?
They are additional units.
New, correct?
Is that unit new, or is a licensing and inspection, or is that just additional?
They want two additional positions for those. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Petty, or excuse me, Senator Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was on that committee, and it is two net new positions. I think it was a pretty compelling argument that this particular division had gone, was a little bit complacent over the years, and there was a lot of stuff that was needing to be prosecuted and found out in terms of fraud and licensing. Was the argument is that it hadn't been done before, and they needed these two to follow up on these particular things. It was net new, though, and it's net new positions, not a new division.
Any other questions? Seeing none, Senator Alley, you may make your motion.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the subcommittee's recommendations for 24 and 25 for the Office of Attorney General.
We have a motion, second by President Masterson. And any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Senator Alley, I think we're going to go ahead and do our hearing. I just wanted to start on this because we were short. Everyone wasn't here, so I did that in first. So we'll go ahead and do the hearing at this time. We're going to have a hearing on Senate Bill 382, making and concerning appropriations for fiscal years 24, 25, 26, 27, and 28 for the state agencies, increasing expenditure limitations, authorizing certain transfers, funding of the fiscal year 2024 salary increases for certain state employees, transferring funds from the legislature, Employment Security Fund, and the Legislative Coordinating Council to the University of Kansas and Wichita State University Health Collaboration Fund, of the University of Kansas to the Wichita State University and University of Kansas Health Collaboration Fund of Wichita State University, and to the State General Fund, and authorizing certain expenditures from the Build Kansas Matching Grants Fund. We're going to have a staff overview by Dylan Deere, Legislative Research Department. Dylan?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee. So you should have a bill explainer for Senate Bill 382 before you. So Senate Bill 382 would provide supplemental funding for 2024 for most state agencies. The total SGF in here is $11.2 million. The other thing it does is it adjusts expenditure limitations for biennial agencies. And those are those agencies that already have an approved budget year budget. Okay, so it's that select series of special revenue funded agencies. Due to variations between the SGF and other funds, The $46 million that was originally appropriated in 2023 SB 25 was determined to be inadequate to fully fund the 2023 legislative pay plan. So this provides an additional $11.2 million. All of those adjustments have already been done, and those adjustments are included as part of the governor's recommendation already. So this is just enacting the governor's recommendation inside of this main part of this bill. The total between the 2023 SB 25 and this SB 382 would be about $57.2 million, which is still, substantially below the $65.5 million originally recommended by the governor to do an across-the-board 5% salary adjustment. So even with this additional funding, the targeted salary adjustments approach taken by the legislature still spends less money than was originally considered when it was going to be an across-the-board salary adjustment. If you look over the next 5 paragraphs, all that does is it sort of details the 2023 legislative pay plan. And so it sort of talks about how, you may recall, the Department of Administration does a market survey, and the plan last year really targeted those individuals who were substantially under market to provide them much more substantial salary adjustments, and those individuals who were at or above market getting much smaller salary adjustments, and also providing some additional increases inside of the Department of Corrections, correctional facilities, state hospitals, and KCDAO, who've had some real recruitment and retention issues at some of those agencies. So that's just sort of a background materials. It's not a part of this bill, but I wanted to let you know what you have done previously. Turning to page 2, the first full paragraph on page 2. The bill would also restore funding for the University of Kansas and Wichita State University Health Collaboration Project. It basically transfers $41 million in ARPA funds from the Legislative Employment Security Fund in equal amounts, to the 2 universities. And the bill would further transfer $30 million from the Legislative Employment Security Fund to the State General Fund, with a net effect of increasing SGF receipts by $30 million. And that's sort of the effect of that. And you may recall there was a determination that language inside of last year's appropriation bill triggered a savings provision inside of 2023 SB 25. There was an ongoing education bill at the same time that the appropriations bill was being considered, both of which were spending ARPA funds. And so there was a savings provision that says if ARPA funds get spent somewhere else, then it basically automatically does a ratchet down on the amount of ARPA going to this project. The determination was made by the executive branch that the original appropriation of ARPA fund dollars triggered that provision. So that is what this does. So this doesn't do anything new. All this does is restore the original legislative intent that was done in a little bit roundabout fashion, but that's where you end up at the same numbers at the end of the day. The other item in here is the bill would further add language to the Build Kansas Matching Grant Program for 24 through 28 to allow the Kansas State Treasurer to award funds to a community which has been notified that the community's grant application does not qualify for federal matching funds under the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. The current statutory provisions regarding geographical distributions of grants shall apply to grants approved by this provision, and the act shall take effect and be enforced from and after its publication in the Kansas Register. So 2 a little bit different provisions, and then the pay plan shortfall section on the top. And with that, I would stand for questions on SB 382.
Thank you, Dylan. Questions? Senator Masterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just for clarity, to make sure I understand it right, the issue, fixing the issue last year, there was a disagreement between our attorneys in the revisor's office and the executive branch, but since the money had already been appropriated and they had the money, they made a decision not to do that. And all this does is simply correct that. That's what I want to make sure I have 100%. This corrects and goes back to what the legislative intent was last year.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct. So what this does is it restores the original legislative intent for this particular project.
Thank you.
Other questions? Senator Pittman.
Thank you. Thank you for all that clarification. That helps a lot. So just to be clear, we did do the market survey. This is not part of that. We did the market adjustments. There was a 5% that we need to adjust with the ARPA funding and then the clawback and all that triggered. Inside of our current budgets on 2024, you know how they have different adjustments for salary pays and things like that? Is this Are those adjustments in addition to whatever this is doing?
No, sir. This is doing the adjustments that you're seeing inside of your bill. So every single time you see that pay plan shortfall inside of it, that is part of the governor's recommendation. This is the implementation of those adjustments. It's a pretty typical supplemental bill. We just haven't seen one of those in a couple of years. So,
Other questions? Seeing none? Thank you, Dylan.
thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Is there anyone else that wanted to speak to this bill? Adam, welcome to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, my name is Adam Profit. I stand before you today as the Budget Director for the state of Kansas. Would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 382. Dylan did a very nice job of explaining exactly what it does. As was mentioned, this is in the governor's budget recommendation. Components of this are in the governor's budget recommendation, specifically the pay plan shortfall, the expenditure limitation increases, and also the reversing of the lapse from the ARPA dollars from last year. So the way that this is moving forward, this was identified, the shortfall specifically was identified last year between passage of omnibus and before the June 7th State Finance Council meeting. So there were a few options discussed as to how to move this forward. And during the June 7th State Finance Council meeting, it was determined and committed to that a bill would be passed early in session to make sure that agencies had the adequate funding to implement the pay plan that was approved by the legislature. So obviously we stand in full support of that. As it relates to reversing the lapse for KU and Wichita State, the governor's office and DOB also stands in full support of that. There was the technicality that Dylan mentioned in last year's omnibus bill. I did want to point out that sections 23 through 27 are problematic for division of the budget and for the governor's office specifically. We have some concerns over redefining the process that's in place. Even though that's included in the bill, we would still be supportive of this bill moving forward. Just wanted to point out that we do have concerns over that. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none? Adam, thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. Were there any opponents? Any neutral? Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and close our hearing on Senate Bill 382 and return to our budget report outs. We'll go back to Senator Alley and we'll start out with the Kansas Insurance Department. Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Kansas Insurance Department for 2024, the agency requests $38.8 million, all from special revenue funds expenditures, and 135.25 FTEs for 2024. This is a decrease of $600,000 below the FY 2024 approved amount. Decrease is primarily attributable to a drop in the expenditures for professional services, specifically accountants and auditors who assist in regulating the insurance companies. The governor concurs with the agency's revised estimate for 2024, and the subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 2024. We move on to 2025. The agency requests $39.5 million, all from special revenue funds and expenditures, and 135 FTEs for 2025. This is an increase of $689,000 above the 2024 estimate. The increase is due primarily to the agency's budgeting of additional $250,000 for a total of $1 million for the advertising costs related to the agency's anti-fraud and investor education campaign. The increase is also attributable to the agency's belief that the amount it collects through insurance premiums on fire and lightning insurance will result in an additional $500,000 for a total of $18.5 million in aid to the firefighters relief fund in 2025. The governor concurs with the agency's request for 25. Subcommittee concurs with the governor's request, and I'll stand for questions.
Questions on 24, 25? Seeing none, Senator, you may make your motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that we approve the Kansas Insurance Department's subcommittee report for 24 and 25.
Have a motion, second by Senator Masterson. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Senator Alley. Next, we'll move on to the Human Service Subcommittee. Senator McGinn, State Institutions for Mental Health.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The agency's request a revised estimate of $187.3 million, including $150 million SGF and 1,454 FTEs for '24. This increase is primarily due to the agency's supplemental requests totaling $27 million and transfer of $10 million from SGF from KDADS, mostly to do with the pay plan. The agency's request includes $16 million in carry forward funds in the LSH Title, what is that, 20? What, 20, is that, that's 19, right there, sorry. Haven't done my Roman lately. Anyway, above the amount approved for the budget. And then the funds were transferred from KDADS in '23 pending the receipt of the GBA to cover the contract agency's shortfall. The governor's recommendations recommends the expenditures of $181 million, including $144 million. This decrease of $5.6 million SGF below the agency's revised estimate in '24 decrease is due to the governor not recommending the request from LSH for a due process manager and partially recommending the request from OSH for contract nursing expenditures. The request of 10.5 million, governor recommended the 5 million. Additionally, the governor recommends a reduction of 49 FTE positions below the agency's estimate to eliminate unfilled and unfunded FTE positions from the agency's FTE counts. The subcommittee on Ways and Means agreed with the governor's recommendation for '24. For '25, the agency requests $176 million, including $155 million from SGF and 1,454 FTE positions for '25. It's a decrease of $11 million or 3.3% from the agency's request in '24. The overall decrease is due to the anticipated decrease of $14.5 million of the LSH Title 19 fund and a decrease of $14.3 million SGF due to the pay plan. The governor recommends the expenditures totaling $134.1 million, including $112 million for the agencies in '25. This is a reduction of $42.1 million, including $42.6 million at SGF, below the agency's request for '25. The reduction is due to the governor not recommending the following enhancements: the LSH SPTP Deputy Superintendent, and the LSH Due Process Manager, LSH Contract Nursing, OSH Contract Nursing, and LSH SPTP Primary Care Staff. Additionally, the governor recommends a slight reduction to the request from the LSH for a forensic evaluator. Finally, the governor recommends using state institution building fund monies for the Biddle Courtyard remodel, which is a decrease of the $492 million. And I guess that is it. I guess the governor's recommendation also includes a reduction of 49 FTE positions. Again, eliminate unfilled and unfunded FTE positions. Committee concurs with the governor's recommendation. And they also recommend the Senate Committee on Ways and Means consider adding funding to the budget of the Kansas State Legislature to allow the Senate Committee on Ways and Means and the House Committee on Appropriations to tour Osawatomie State Hospital, Larned State Hospital, Kansas Neurological Institute, and Parsons State Hospital and Training Center. Just to give you a little background on that, and I do have the amendment that goes with that. And the reason is the last time, thank you, we used to do Ways and Means and House appropriations every other year and look at our state institutional buildings. And I think that that is very valuable for those that are making budget decisions and just doing more than just looking at the piece of paper. They need to actually see some of those facilities. The last time we did a bus trip, I believe, was in 19, and it was the mental health bus trip, where we did tour all of the mental health facilities and some, ComCare and some other places like that. This can be adjusted. I look for it to be about a 3-day trip, but we have a lot of new people since 2019. We've constantly been having turnover. And I just think it would be valuable for some of those folks to see these facilities. And we can certainly make adjustments. I've already been approached by the hospitals, and they want to show us something. And then, if we drive by a university, we probably should look at that. But I don't want to overfill it. I just because you only have 3 days. We used to go 5 days, and it seemed like it was too long. So just to give everybody an idea, the cost is $49,800, but most of the $41,245 is to pay the legislators that are on those two committees, plus I think there's a couple people on the state building committee that you have to add. But so that $41,000 is paying mostly for the legislators. The bus company is estimated around $6,000 to $8,000. So that would be your cost, and no hotels, because you'd be getting your subsistence in this, and that would be paying for your hotel as well. So that concludes 25, and Mr. Chairman, I would stand for questions.
President Masterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would concur. There is value in getting them around it. And I would agree it would not need to specifically be our mental institution. Those need to be viewed. But I mean, the universities, there's a lot to see around this state. I do think that it's probably appropriate, but I think it'd probably be in the legislature's budget or the LCC's budget, because it's not specific to state building institutions. So I would certainly be amenable to having that that dollar amount put into our budget, but I think it'd be most appropriate in the legislative budget under LCC as we approve the trip.
Do we want to do that now then? Go ahead and.
Yeah, so
And you want LLC to.
what I was saying, it's probably most appropriate, since it's broader than just institutions. I agree with putting the money in for this trip to happen, but it'd probably be most appropriate in the legislature's budget under LCC, because that's where the trip is approved, under one of those two budgets. And so I'd certainly be amenable to this at that time. So this might be better when we go to work the budget. Unless, I guess, which is fair, we could
I just
do.
want to let you know also, if I may,
Yes.
they did check with Tom Day, and we do have money in our budget to do that.
Yeah, I think we have room now, because we shorted, we had some excess last year, had a fairly short session, so.
Any other questions? Senator Clays.
Just from a process standpoint, have we already reported out the legislative budget, and so we would just make that amendment now? The legislative budget.
President Masterson.
Mr. Chairman, if the legislature's budget's already reported out and reported in, we would do this when we get together on the main budget. We would add this into the legislature's budget then. Otherwise, we'd have to reconsider that acceptance of the legislative budget, amend it, and re-accept it. Simplest way to do it would be when we get to everything's reported in. If we want, and even if it goes in this budget, once we report in, we could just move it with a motion when we're on the main budget.
Senator McGinn.
I agree with that, and I would just like to put this in so that staff is so noted, when we package the budget, that they'll come back and make sure we take care of it in the other budget.
Senator Clays.
Just for expedience here, could we make a single motion that reopens the legislature's budget, adds this in, and then closes that out? Can I do a single motion that just does that? Oh, LCC budget, yeah. So could we just do that? I would motion to reconsider the LCC budget, add in the amendment as presented by Senator McGinn, and vote out as amended.
Have a motion, second by President Masterson. Any other questions or discussion?
2025 specifically.
Oh, I think it's this summer. Wait. Or maybe, yeah, it is. It is for 2025. You're right. That's right. Yeah. 2025.
Okay. We're all in agreement at 2025. Okay. Is there any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move back on to the mental health. Senator McGinn? Pardon me? No.
So the language is in the IDD budget. So do I need to read this amendment, staff? Or Dayton? Do I need to read that in, or is that? Yeah, don't need to.
We put it already in the other one.
Okay, because this is already going to be in here, this statement. Yeah, okay. All right, Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to approve the state institutions for mental health 24 and 25.
We have a motion, second by Senator Clays. Any questions? Senator Petty?
So, Madam Chair, is that as amended with the removal of the recommendations?
So,
with that?
may I?
Yeah.
Senator McGinn?
So the notation will be in here because that's what we recommended, but the fix will be in the LCC budget.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Senator McGinn. We'll next have the state institutions for intellectual disabilities. Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The agencies request a revised estimate of $74.1 million, including $41 million SGF expenditures and 956 FTEs for 24. This is an increase of $5.9 million, and it is above the 23 legislature. This is all funds increase of 8.6%, SGF 14% above the amount, and is increase is primarily due to the $4 million SGF transfers of KDADs to the PSH and KNI for 24 to provide shift differentials for the employees and because of the 24/7 pay plan. Additionally, the revised estimate also includes $590,700 in SGF supplemental funding to increase 7 FTE positions in PSH to restructure its cottage management team. They report that 13 program coordinator FTEs positions have 60% vacancy rate due to requiring a 4-year college degree in human services and sufficient experience. PSH requests 7 new FTEs, which do not require a 4-year college degree, only cottage or supervisory experience. Additionally, PSH states that $235,000 of this funding would be used to increase other cottage management FTE positions to avoid wage compression. The revised estimate includes $228,000 SGF and supplemental funding, an increase of the 7 FTEs to expand the dual diagnosis treatment and training services. The team has 7 positions composing 3 outreach service teams who travel through the state to train parents and community service providers to serve Kansans and intellectual disability people in the community. PSH reports it has a wait list of 51 individuals and a wait time of 4 to 5 months. Agency states that 97% of the individuals who completed consultation with the team remained in their own communities, and PSH indicates the expansion would increase the number of individuals served by 40 in the first year. The governor's rec expenditures totaling $73 million, including $40 million in SGF. This is a decrease of $818,000, including $695,000 SGF below the agency's revised estimate. The decrease is due to the governor not recommending the agency's 2 enhancement requests for a cottage management restructure and expansion of the DDT and TS team at PSH. Governor's recommendation also includes a decrease of 14 FTE positions to not recommend the 2 enhancement requests. Subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 24. For 25, the agency requests $70 million, including $37 million SGF in expenditures and 956 FTE positions in 25, decrease of $3.4 million, including a decrease of $3.7 million in SGF below the agency's revised estimate. This decrease of 4.7% SGF and 9.4% below the revised estimate. The decrease is primarily due to the 24/7 pay plans transfers and the SGF appearing in the agency's budget for 24 does not reflect 25. The funds are requested in KDAD's budget for year, 25, and will be transferred to the agencies during 25. The decrease is partially offset by the enhancements request of $1.2 million and including $1 million SGF to restructure the cottage management team and expand dual diagnosis treatment and training services. The governor recommends expenditures totaling $70 million, including $37 million SGF for 24, the decrease of 437 SGF below the agency's request for 25. Decrease is due to the governor recommending partial adoption of the agency's enhancement request to restructure the cottage management team for 25. Governor also recommends partial adoption of the agency's enhancement request to expand the dual diagnosis treatment and training services team. Governor recommendation includes decrease of 14 FTE positions to not recommend the addition of FTE positions for the enhancement requests. And the Senate subcommittee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 25. Stand for questions.
Questions for Senator McGinn? Senator, I guess I would ask you on this realignment and the 14 FTE positions, is there a reason that she partially, accepted the cottage management?
Yeah, well, I don't know what her reasons are, but we've noticed that in a lot of budgets that she's doing partially recommend on some of that. As I was reading this, I was also thinking about, to me, it makes sense. They're having a hard time getting 4-year college degree people. So it kind of makes sense to me to approve those positions so that they can staff the facility properly. So
That's what my concern was, that if we're having trouble staffing, that maybe we should look at some adjustments.
and with your permission, I'd like to study that a little bit more, and I was wondering if we could just have staff earmark that so when we package the budget, if we want to make a minor change there, that we can.
That'd be great. Is the committee okay with that? Looking at it
Right.
when we put the package together? Okay.
So if there's no further questions, make a motion to approve the state institutions for the intellectual disabilities for years 24 and 25.
I have a motion by Senator McGinn, a second by Senator Alley. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Committee, I believe that is everything we had on the schedule today, so we are adjourned.